talking about what farmers can grow between now and before the rainy season ends. Could you elaborate more on that?
Well, I think we're both a bit worried that the normal season hasn't happened
Mm-hmm.
for many people. We had the perfect rainy season, really.
Mm-hmm.
Rain started for most people, a lot of people, on 1st of November,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's a very unusual event, right? Normally you get that bit of rain in October, and then it goes away for a while, and people fear to plant in October. It's too early.
Right.
But really, for anybody who wants to make money, early November is a good time to plant if the rain is looking promising.
Mm.
At least 1/3 of your crop, of maize especially, those longer term crops, should plant in early November
Mm-hmm.
up to middle of November. In the south, it's a bit later, early November. But you want those daylight hours,
Mm.
the long daylight hours, so that the crops really grow quickly.
Okay.
And that's how you make money. Otherwise, mashanga December, in January, nivokudya, not
Mm.
nivogurisa.
So there's a lot of waste and
Yeah.
losses. Mm.
Yeah, just to add on to the context is that we've had a very good rainy season, like Rolf has put it.
Mm.
And despite that, we've had, you know, that most of farmers are so dependent on PCIP, now called CASP.
Mm.
And this year, we've had a situation where the delivery of imports has really been delayed.
Mm-hmm.
Up to now, there are some farmers that have not received those imports, and those who have, I have a family in the Copper Belt who have received. Their cooperative, they were 20, they received packs for 4 people, and therefore they had to share. So we see a crisis this year because apart from the delay, those who received did not receive imports that were they couldn't account for the whole for entire cooperatives that were supposed to receive imports. And last year we had a program where we talked about the perfect storm, a perfect storm of happenings, some man-made, others natural, that were leading up to a certain crisis that we foresaw. And this year we are saying this crisis, this perfect storm, is actually full on, because now we have even less fertilizer coming in from the west. We have less chemicals. We have a good rainy season given, but we also have so many other external economic factors that are affecting the way we produce food, because we are mainly dependent on external inputs for production. And apart from that, we also have a lot of small-scale farmers that are still not able to access even seed without the CAS.
Mm-hmm.
So you find that while they are waiting for fertilizers, they are also waiting for the seed. So we have a crisis on our hands, and we are saying, what can farmers do given this? So maybe Rolf can also add on the context.
Yeah, I think that in the bigger picture, we've got to recognize that we're in a moment of history where the oil, the fossil fuel which we depend on for this amazing period of success around the world, it's only 200 years old, and it's all because of this oil. But the oil is beginning to peak. It's not running out, but it's becoming a bit shorter. It's becoming very expensive to find it, and so the price is gonna just keep on going up. And of course, it's been going up for some time. It's only that we didn't see it. It's like a frog in the hot water. Doesn't notice when it's too hot. Doesn't know when to jump. And when I was a kid, a bag of fertilizer was the same as one bag of maize, 50 kgs for 50 kgs. And now you need 6 or 7 bags of maize to buy one bag of fertilizer. So I think the message has been clear for some time that we need to get off the stuff, the expensive stuff. But at the same time, we know that the fertilizer has really done a lot of damage to our soils. And that now has a kickback effect that your soil is less and less fertile every year. You need to put more and more fertilizer, and you get less and less water in your soil. You get more floods. The soil becomes hard, and the water runs off. And so you have this whole crisis going on. So it's economic, it's social as well. I mean, it's really about dependence. Why is a farmer so dependent on the government giving them inputs when we know that our grandmothers grew very good crops without any fertilizer? From the time of Adam until about the 60s, there's nobody ever heard about fertilizer.
Yeah.
You just kept your soil well. You had a different way of farming, and did people starve? No, they had perfectly good crops. In fact, more healthy because they didn't need chemicals.
Right. The number to call is 0770-347-221. Our WhatsApp line for texts and voice notes is 0970-324-843. Now, Mutinta, you had mentioned, of course, there are some farmers who have not received their farming inputs, and they had plans.
Yeah.
Of course, in farming, you have to plan ahead when you want to plant a crop, and probably they've given up because the window for planting maize is closed. So, what hope is there for them since they haven't received their visit? What other crops can they think of growing right now?
Yeah, I think that from time immemorial, real farmers, have known what grows in their areas. What has derailed them is this focus on maize, the monocropping nature of our farming system now. And this has been promoted and heavily marketed and also supported by government policy and programs. So you find that people think that food security is equal to maize security, or maize sufficiency equals to food security. But farmers from time immemorial have known what grows well in their areas. So depending on the areas where people are at the moment, there is opportunity even today for farmers to plant beans if you're in the northern parts. Sweet potatoes grows almost in all parts of Zambia. You still have chance to plant cowpeas, which can grow in almost all parts of this country. You still have chance to grow most of these short and especially legumes, which you can at the end of the farming season exchange with grain if you really want to exchange for maize, like sell the beans and buy maize. So we still have that chance. For some parts of the country, they still have chance to plant cassava and other such crops. So one of the things that farmers need to focus on is how they manage the soil between now and the time that the rainy season ends, but also on what they need to do. I mean, what crops they need to plant depending on where they are. One of the things that farmers have been doing, farmers in the past have been doing, is knowing the rain patterns. Like for us now, this time we are lucky because we have the meteorological department that gives us, even if they're not accurate, but at least they give us an idea of how the rains will fall and what kind of how the amounts of rain to expect in a particular year and how that rain will fall. There's the weekly updates and all that. So farmers need to tap into that knowledge and know what they can plant between now and then. And there's the extension workers that can help them to determine what crop performs better in their area, but also on how the rains will fall from now up to the end of this rainy season.
077.
Yeah, I think, I can hear Victor's concern, but really we're too late to plant maize now. It's been too late for about 2 weeks already.
Okay.
If you plant now, you may get a cob, you may not, but you're just wasting your money putting fertilizer on it. And so really what we're trying to say is recognize the moment. See that we have missed the boat. It has gone. So we need to make another plan. And, it's better you have something growing than nothing growing. And so what we're saying is, look, let's plant those things which are shorter season, which can grow, which can give us something. If we don't need all of it, we can sell some of it and exchange it for whatever else we may need. But it's too late for soybeans and it's too late for maize. That's the truth. And there are crops which can be grown. Even the short variety crops that are out, there's some groundnuts which are short variety. I think it's still okay in some parts of the country to do those. But people got to wake up and recognize the time for maize and soy has gone.
Right.
And let's move on to the next stage now.
Okay, we'll take another caller before we come to Hello? Good evening.
To respond to Mr. Hendricks, indeed, our extension services sometimes fall short, mainly because they are few compared to the number of farmers. I have forgotten the ratio, but there was a study last year that showed that the number of farmers per extension worker was just too high for one extension farmer to manage. And that said, extension services need to have the capacity to bring farmers to the point that he's talking about, transition into a more sustainable way of producing food, which is organic agriculture. And I would like to invite Mr. Hendricks and everyone else who's listening to this program to tune in on the Sunday program when we talk about how farmers should start transitioning now from this system to a more sustainable system. But I would also like to point out to Mr. Hendricks that the transitioning, we should not look at companies. I think this is where we have a problem even now. The fertilizers, we are looking to the company. The seeds, we are looking to the company. The chemicals like herbicides, we are looking to the company. The only sustainable way of producing that will enable the farmer to gain enough profit from their production is when they use on-farm inputs. You produce your own compost. You save your own. You compost your own manure. You produce compost manure from food and plant waste. You produce liquid fertilizers if you are able to. So the capacity that farmers need to have now is not to know where they can find the company that can provide them with organic fertilizers, is how can they produce those fertilizers at home. How can they save and reuse their seed when cusp seed comes 2-3 weeks when they should have planted.
I agree, and if you look around and see who managed to plant in early November, it's the ones who kept their own seed. It's the ones who kept manure nicely, not in the sun where the nitrogen is going in the air, but they covered it, they kept it under the shade, they kept on as the fresh manure came. The whole year they were collecting manure in a heap, and it was composting. And it's the ones who kept the fire out of their field. It's the ones who controlled the fire in their field. They had the residues from last year to protect the soil, to keep the soil cool, to protect the moisture. So when the first rain came, a small rain was enough to make them to join with the last year's water, and they planted. And they are free because they didn't need fertilizer. Their soil was already healthy. And there are a lot of farmers like this around the country. And I really encourage people, look around. Don't go and look for somebody who's got good maize and say, oh, this guy's got some witchcraft or whatever. Let's see the guy who's done well and interview them. Say, please, Tandizani, Nachita Panja.
How to do it.
What was your management? So how, and let's learn from each other, because really my friends in Kafuri there are getting the highest yields in Zambia. They've never used fertilizer. Vena Happy and Sebastian and these guys, they're getting 16 tons of maize, but they mix with soybeans. They get 6.5 tons of soybeans. This is 3 times the commercial farmer's average. So this is without fertilizer, without chemicals, without machines. They're doing everything with cows and by hand. So it is possible, and that is the way we need to go now. And we need to get serious. Let's not wait for this FISIP. Every year since I was born, FISIP ya chedwa. And it has caused farmers to plant later and later. Now we are used, we aim for 15 December. 15 November is planting date, please. And if you are free and your soil is good, you can do it.
Right. So then we're always talking about monocropping year in, year out. And it seems the farmers are not getting the word. They don't seem to understand that this is actually detrimental to our soils. We need to intercrop. So where are we getting it wrong?
Well, I think we started learning from the wrong people.
Hmm.
You know, God is the best farmer, Dorica.
Mhm.
Please, let's admit. Go in the forest and just see these huge plants growing with no fertilizer. What do you see there? You see 8,200 shallow-rooted plants, grasses, legumes, all a mix of different type of things. Then the big trees are another 300.
Mm.
That's 8,500 plants. And then you think you're more clever than God, you plant one crop instead of 8,500. Now, honestly, let's be humble here. Please, God made a system on this planet, and it is very obvious what works, and it's very obvious that this fertilizer type of monoculture doesn't work. It has made deserts around the world.
Mm.
You know, these wars which are going on is about grain and fossil fuel.
Mm.
You know, and so really we need to change, and it's time now. And you know, the examples are there. Just look with your eyes. Who's got a good crop? Is somebody's mixing their crops,
Yeah.
putting some beans in between. Maybe he's put some pumpkins there.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got ngoliolio. You know, these yamundolo,
Mhm.
like trees,
Yes.
alleys,
Mhm.
and then he's planting maize in one section and soya in the other, and then he's Sinta next year. So
Mhm.
it's mixing and making sure that there's that animal impact.
Mhm.
I've just read this morning there were 25 million elephants in Africa 300 years ago.
Wow.
25 million.
And
Today you have less than 200,000.
um,
So the thing is, these animals have a job. They eat the green vegetation and they put manure.
right.
So do it with your cattle, your
Mm.
goats, your sheep, your chickens.
Mm.
Get them to eat the green and make manure. That's how God does it. We can't reinvent the wheel.
Mm.
And those who are doing it, they're doing fine.
Right.
Just to add that, I think the second last caller talked about maize and the profitability of maize.
Mm.
The fact that there is a problem with marketing these other crops, and I didn't want to lose that comment from him.
Mhm.
I think what people should realize, especially small-scale farmers, is that maize is not profitable. Just because you can sell it doesn't mean that you're making money out of it or you're getting a profit out of it. A lot of small-scale farmers do not count the cost of transporting the fertilizer from the depot where it is dumped to their homestead. They don't cost their labor. They don't consider the time they spend on so many other things, including the weed killers that they put in the field.
Mhm.
But they only consider the price at which they sell. And in most cases, they make huge losses.
Mhm.
And there have been studies that have been done. A lot of people now understand that maize is a loss. Just because it's being sold, people think that they're making money out of it, but they're actually not. There's a lot of markets opening up for these other crops, like cassava, like cowpeas, and so many of these other crops, including sweet potatoes, are
Yes,
so
I'm told
profitable.
now they're being milled into flour.
Yes,
So we have all these products from sweet potatoes.
exactly.
Even
And
sweet potato chips.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the beans, the chilemba from Northern Province, are nobody in the world can grow beans like that.
exactly.
Wow.
So let's get them to the
Yeah.
market.
Mhm.
We've got to look. We've got to work a little
Yeah.
harder. We
Mhm.
can't just sit in our village and wait for somebody to come and buy.
So
We've got to get out there and market and
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
stuff out. These are the best beans in the world.
exactly.
So I'm talking
And-
about beans, you can actually process it into baked beans.
They do.
Of course.
They do.
course.
It's just that when you've been told that the only beans that can be processed into baked beans is that one which is hybrid or whatever it is, whether it is hybrid or what, then people believe that. So I want us to come back to the fact that what we are encouraging farmers to grow, the beans, the cowpeas, the cassava, the sweet potatoes, that they still have a chance to grow,
Mhm.
they are still able to market. All they need to do is find that market. I
Mm.
think we are so lazy as Zambians because we expect that the information about the market will fall on us. The way it does with FRA, we know. But people don't go out there to say, if others are selling cassava, if others are selling the beans, if others are selling the sweet potatoes, where are they selling and how are they selling it? So we need to, our idea today, to come here today, is to say, can you look at what can grow in your area? Your elders know. The old farmers know what grows in your area, and you still have a chance. Because the maize, like most people have said, the callers, the maize won't do anything. And people know that. Yeah, we all know that. Most of the farmers that have not received completely, some not even the D compound, others have received D compound and not the other one. Even those that have received, sometimes I've had to share those bags. So what they put in their fields is less than what is required to be put in there. So we are just providing, the options. The other thing is what Rolf said about, the what is propelling this monocultural way of farming is that the aggressive marketing, mainly by the multinational companies that produce seed, and also the fertilizers and the chemicals that go with it. You see, maize is an easy crop for seed producers. They produce the seed. Some of them are the same people that own the companies that produce fertilizers and the herbicides, and also the chemicals that kill the stock. What do you call that?
The weed.
Yes, the army worms.
Yes,
The army worms.
Pesticides.
The pesticides. So you find that from one crop, and because it is bred like that, they breed the seeds to be like that. Multinationals are making a lot of money out of it. The only person that is losing out is the Zambian farmer. One, secondly, the consumer who is consuming chemicals in consuming these the products that are made from these products. So the monocultural way of farming can only shift if government puts effort into ensuring that we do not continue with this. We need government's will. We need political will to shift from promoting the production of maize as a cornerstone for our agricultural programs and agricultural production system to a system that is more diverse, and let the farmers themselves choose what they want to produce.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, due to time, we have continued, but I'd like to thank you so much for coming through to share this vital information with the nation. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks, Dorica. Thank you,
Thank
listeners.
you, Dorica. We will definitely be back.